Wow. Wow. Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. If you're with us for the first time, where have you been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook too. Now, for those that do follow me, I don't post much on X, as you guys are aware, at all really at the moment, or in general in my life. But I said at half-time, which I was told, Rick, take it down, take it down. Tottenham Hotspur might be the only team in the world who would win the league if they just played Man City every single week and not teams like Ipswich, Brighton, Palace. I mean, I tell you what a magnificent, magnificent performance that was from Tottenham. Where, look, you know what? There's some days you have to say the total team were unbelievable and gave absolutely everything on the pitch. And I think, can I just say at the very, very top of this show, this is what frustrates fans the most, that this team is absolutely capable of a result like that. And all we ask for is to see that effort, commitment, desire, that talent they show week upon week, game upon game. Because again, I'll make that point. That's a Tottenham side without Mickey van der Ven. That's a Tottenham side without Christian Romero in there. You know, without Richarlison, with all due respect, and many other players that are missing. And it just shows you what this team is capable of when the focus is 100% on Tottenham Hotspur. It was incredible. And I'm joined by an incredible panel on this Last Word on Spurs. I'm joined by my, listen, been here 7-8 years. Jason McGovern is with me. He's smiling, as is co-pilot over there, Russ Williams. And listen, my actor, my everything, TJ Ramini is back on the panel. I've got to say a few words in a second about why I said we're multi-award winning. But before I do, we've got to open up with that unbelievable victory against Manchester City. Jason is telling me in the back room, don't you dare, Rick, don't you dare mention Fulham next week. Enjoy this one and we will. Jace, Spurs' 4-0 win versus Man City was the first home loss they've had since, you have to go back unbelievably to November 2022. And just on top of that, can I just add the first away team to win at the Etihad since Brentford did it just before the 2022 World Cup. Spurs, the first team to score 3 goals against Manchester City in the Premier League since December 2023. And Spurs inflicting a straight Premier League defeat in a row on Man City for the first time in 8.5 years since Pep Guardiola took control of that football club. Try and summarise, Jace, the performance, the result, and take us away in your mind how good that win was.
I'd love to know what Pep's heaviest ever home defeat is as well. I shouldn't think he's lost too many games at home 4-0. And I think I saw a stat that Tottenham have now beaten Pep more times than Real Madrid have beaten Pep, which is just another bizarre one. So it was what a brilliant performance. The first 10 or 15 minutes, I thought, God, this is going to be a long night. But we just said everything seems to go. There's certain grounds where you just feel like everything goes your way. And that doesn't mean to say we were lucky tonight. But even that Dragusin clearance right at the end, if that's at Stamford Bridge, that goes in. If that's at Anfield or the Emirates, it goes in. But just, you know, that goes over the bar. Haaland hits a bar. Vicario comes for corners like taking apples off a tree. Absolutely no flaps today. We go with Ben Davies for the second year in a row as our centre-half, come away with a result. It's just, you know, what needed to go our way went our way today. And four fantastically worked goals. We could have had more ourselves. You know, Ederson made that fantastic save from Sonny, good one from Solanke. We had other chances with a ball flashing across the face of goal. Decky could have got one earlier in the second half, but just a brilliant, brilliant team performance from absolutely everyone. Brilliant managerial performance from Ange. Go there, be brave, have a go. You know, it gets to half-time on the back of Brighton. Very easy for us to then sit in the box and not try and get across the halfway line like everyone says we should, but we still try and go forward when the opportunity comes. Excellent team selection, excellent substitutions, just everything about today from the entire team. Papsar, outstanding. Bissouma to be booked after 15 seconds and then get through the game as he did. Just an immense performance from absolutely everyone from Tottenham Hotspur today. Outstanding performance.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you've got to say it was one of those games where everybody showed up, gave absolutely everything. And Russ was in here 15 minutes early, championing the boys. Come on, We've got to get started. We've got to get started.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's my live broadcasting thing, Rick. Yeah, it's in my blood. Sorry.
Don't apologise. Do not apologise. Russ, I mean, you've said many times that you can see the qualities in this Spurs side. And I think that's frustrated you the most is essentially that consistency. But I think we have to go back to the point. We have to enjoy the win. We have to enjoy the performance. And we have to enjoy the fact of the players really showing up and performing for the manager who, let's be honest about it, during this couple of weeks break we've had with the international break, there's been certain rumours around the camp of, disenchantment. There's been alleged bust-ups. But, I mean, a performance like that, everybody like they were playing for him. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've written 4 things on my bit of paper here, and then I'm going to throw it in the bin. Brilliant performance. As Jason said, tactically spot on, clean sheet, which is in any game fabulous, but at Man City away, even better. And Vicario was immense tonight. And all this after the international break, which, notoriously players come back tired. They don't quite put in the shift that they would normally put in. I think maybe we saw, Rick, a little bit of that with Manchester City. Are they a team in slight decline? Maybe. Do we care? No. Everything about the way that we played tonight is what we want to see more often than not from our Tottenham Hotspur football team. So I think we just got to be relentlessly positive tonight because, quite often watching Spurs is an appointment for misery. But tonight it's an appointment for elation with balanced opinions as well as, being very, 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 very happy. But they can all be really proud of themselves tonight, substitutes and all. And I just thought, what an effort. And to go up there and beat the champions 4-0 in their backyard. We weren't playing Nottingham Forest at home and beating them 3-0. We beat the champions 4-0 away from home. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. We've got to keep it going now, but we'll come on to that, I'm sure, over future episodes. But just absolutely fantastic. And our fans were unbelievable, as usual. A big shout out for them.
I'm going to address the comments in 1 second. I will. Can I just say, can I go to TJ? TJ, you've said often on this show, you discussed the chat we had off air about the nature of that. We could win 4-0, we could lose 4-0. But you've also made the point that on many occasions that you have seen the potential of this Tottenham side and what they're capable of. Does that, again, reaffirm the case that this is a manager still very much getting to know his players, still getting to know the systems of the best way to work with them? And this is a process, and it is about giving the manager time to really embed this philosophy. And like we've said many times, there will be ups, there will be downs, there will be bumps in the road. But, there has been signs, we've said many, many times through the good wins that we've won, and we've won convincingly. Is this, again, a showing of that performance and that potential that's in this squad for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a pro-Ange Tottenham supporter. The last episode that I was on, when I think that the Ange out furious fan base, and I understand, and again, I always commiserate, and I understand where those negative thoughts and impulses come from. It's years of pent-up frustration for many of us Tottenham fans, but I had never, ever, ever once even implied I think that Ange should go. The things that I have taken exception to when we've lost is the manner of losses, but also the manner of wins. And so what I was saying to you, Rick, when we were chatting through the game, is that I don't only think today is going to be a brilliant episode, and it's already started so wonderfully, and we're all in such good spirits, and, we're just kind of feeling jubilant and elated, which we deserve to feel, and we should feel. And it's not even midday here in Los Angeles. And when I get out today, I'm going to be head to toe Tottenham gear. I'm going to go full Tottenham, which is going to be wonderful. And so I think it's really important. This is what we were saying today. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, right? Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Listen, nowadays with social media, everyone can air those opinions at all times. What I'm hoping we can do today, and we were talking about this just before we went live, is that potentially, can we maybe not put to bed, but put to rest the Ange is not at his level, or this isn't the kind of thing that Ange is not a Premier League manager. Ange doesn't have a plan B. Ange never switches things up. Ange doesn't know how to make substitutions, because to Jason's point, to Russ's point, and of course to your point as well, Rick, which we've been saying, for quite some time now, he has very often changed things up. Has he brought on substitutions sometimes too late and things like that? Yes, but he changed things completely today, made some really big calls, playing Maddison in the number 10 position, putting Kulu back out on the right, massive calls, playing Basuma and Sarr, massive calls, benching Johnson, massive call, and he did it. And so we should not only feel really delighted and just enthused and so happy at the beginning of our weekend, so we can enjoy our Saturday and into our Sunday, not only feeling really happy to be Tottenham fans, but also hopefully with a new galvanized spirit that Ange is the man for us, but the brand of football that he plays is high risk, so it takes time to stick. But I am so happy and proud to be a Tottenham fan this weekend, and I'm delighted for our Australian boss, Ange Postecoglou. Big up to you, my friend. Massive love and respect.
Can I come in there for a second? I know Jason, because he's literally maybe to come back in there. He's smiling away. Lots of comments coming through. I mean, I think the thing is there may be a feeling that, I ride the wave in terms of week upon week. And for me, I think what the key is, I've always said on this show, is that we want to make it enjoyable. We don't want to make it draining. But for me, I'll always try and be honest and tell it as it is. I'll tell it when it's bad. I'll tell it when it's good. I think the biggest thing I've always said under this current process under Ange Postecoglou is that I've said it. I can see potential when we're playing really well. I think what I've said many times is that we are a side that when we have got the ascendancy and we're in full flow, nobody can stop us. Nobody can stop us. And the issue I've got is that when things aren't going our way, I don't see enough players in that side that are genuine fighters, that are there, that are going to lead us out through the trenches. And all I've said all along is that all I've been crying out for is an element of consistency. Now, the key thing is that we've seen Spurs this season in the nature of some of their most convincing results. Can I just say, as much as I love Mauricio Pochettino and that particular era before the end of it, I will say this is the most convincing win I think I've ever seen in my lifetime against Man City. And look, you can put Man City aside, their problems at the moment, whatever. Just focusing from a Tottenham perspective, that was an unbelievable display from a Tottenham side. The most convincing I've seen, the most phenomenal in terms of how we moved the ball, how the players gave absolutely everything on the pitch that I've ever quite seen. But the reality is that I've always said, just to be very, very clear, transparent, as honest as I can, that what drives me mad, as I said at the very top of this show, is that this is what we're capable of. And this is what really I think can frustrate Spurs fans when they see this unbelievable potential, what this Tottenham side is capable of. And then the following week, let you down. Now, we don't want it to be about that. We want the show to be enjoyable. We want the show to be fun. But I've also got to put a sense of perspective and honesty on that point, that I think all of us fans that are coming away from that ground or are watching or listening back to Last Word on Spurs, all of us will sit there and say, we can see what we're capable of. Now what we want to see is Tottenham take a result like that and build on the strength of it, because it was such a great display. And it'd be such a shame if results like that, results like Manchester United, results against Aston Villa, don't count for much more than that, because they were such great performances that we can see it. So I want to make that very, very clear in terms of that point. Now, before we do go further on to Man City, I just need to bring up the very, very top of this show. I did mention we are multi-award winning, and that is what we are. Jason, I can see you itching. Go on.
Yeah, I've got my own award to give you.
Go on. Flip-flop.
I've got the flip-flop for you. All right.
Look,
I'll put in a post for you, matey. All right. For the
I will maintain my point. I'll maintain my point. I'll try and say it as it is week to week. And look, at the end of the day, the results, the performances is what will be judged upon. But you can't argue or disregard the fact that that performance we saw against Man City there, for me, has been arguably the most convincing win, definitely, in my time supporting the football club. In Gola's Amni, he's not to age me too much. It was that good. It was that phenomenal. Before we discuss more on City, a very quick reminder, just to let you guys know, a bit of housekeeping, that we are delighted to once again have been awarded in the Football Content Awards, to have been seen as back-to-back best Tottenham podcast in the Premier League. It crowns, like I say, for the last 7-8 years, the sheer commitment, hard work, desire across the unbelievable contributors that we have on this show. I mean, Jason was with me when we started this back in 2017, 7-8 years ago. I'm blessed to have had Russ and TJ join us. What feels like to them probably years, but it has been more recent than that. But it probably does feel like years. And it's at my point where, again, I want to just say and emphasize just how much we truly appreciate the support. not just week upon week, but game upon game, second upon second, hour upon hour. The amount of support we get for Last Word on Spurs is quite simply unbelievable. The amount of times I'm stopped during the street and people tell me and share me their love for the show, how much it helps them during difficult times. And all I would say is that, for us who have all got commitments and different things outside of this, we do this for fun. We do this because we love the football club. And we do this because we love talking Tottenham. So I've got to say again, a massive thank you to the wonderful viewers and listeners that make this possible, because I'll make that point very, very clear. Without you amazing human beings that watch, that listen, that tune in week upon week, it simply isn't possible. And it also isn't possible with the wonderful contributors that give up so much time of their life to come onto this show. The likes of Jace, bless him, the likes of Russ, TJ, Lee McQueen, Christina, Crackers, Darren, Ricky. God, I don't leave anybody out to upset them. You know who they are, those special people that you love listening to week in, week out. So I want to say a massive, massive thank you to all of you. And Jace, before I'm on this subject as well, you shared the journey with me at the very, very start. I'm sure you'll echo those words, right? Just of how much love we've had for this show.
Yeah, amazing. It's been a brilliant, 7, 8 years now. And I said in the week, regardless of what award comes our way, the main purpose to do it is to make the show enjoyable for the viewers and listeners. And I'd sooner have the viewers and listeners praised than a certificate on the wall as well. So that's important. And as long as people keep listening, it's a pleasure to do them, mate. That's for sure. Oh, man.
Lovely, lovely words. So, guys, I say thank you so much again for all the support. We are going to have to go, listen, and revert back to what we've just witnessed, because I know many are settling down. They can't quite believe it. It was that good. It really, really was that good. Spurs Kings, lads, God, Patty, Mitch, all of you, we love you all. I said there's so many that mentioned, God, I'd be running out. There would be. Russ, let me come round to you, because, the nature of a win like that, that will get everybody really excited, and rightly so. You actually said at the beginning that you don't want to focus on the negatives of Manchester City, because I think that performance was as much as good as Spurs were, disregarding what City are right now. Just how good were Tottenham in terms of a performance overall when you look at the individual displays that made up that victory?
Well, I thought it was interesting, Rick, when you said we all know through games like tonight and other performances this season and last season what this team are capable of, but we also know from watching them what they're not capable of, and that is what the manager has got to try and close the gap between. Honestly, I don't want to sound too over the top, but I think in terms of importance for the way we can move forward, this was up there with Amsterdam, this performance, only it was better because we didn't have to do it in the last couple of minutes. And we all remember that brilliant night. Make no mistake about it, they might not be quite the City they were, and I think there is a good case for saying that, but we never really gave them much of a look in. What was the interesting thing that Ange did after about 10 minutes of the game, and Jason touched on this at the beginning, is that they were cutting through us in the first 5 or 10 minutes like a hot knife through butter. And then Ange tightened up the midfield and made City play down the sides, and it made them less and less effective and allowed us to play our game. And, we can't say goodbye to Dr. Tottenham after this performance because he will be back at some stage, but we don't want to see him very often, if you understand what I'm saying. And I just thought that there were so many heroes out there for us. Ones that come to mind tonight, Ben Davies, certainly, who played in the same fixture last season. Magnificent.
Russ, can I just say, just to stick with you on this point, because I know many on this show laugh at the fact I say 6 out of 10 Ben, steady Eddie Ben. I've got to say, to let you come back on this point, he was absolutely phenomenal, Ben Davies. I've got to say, there's certain players that for some reason they do get, it appears, a bad rep amongst some of the fan base. But I've always said this with Ben Davies. This has not been a lack of commitment, a lack of desire, a lack of effort. He's been here over 10 years. But the one thing I never can fault him for, as I've said, is his application, his desire, his determination in a Tottenham shirt. And I've got to say, to put in that performance along with Radu Dragusin, I think both of them were quite simply phenomenal and absolutely key, Russ, to Spurs keeping the clean sheet. Is that fair?
I think it's totally fair. I think Vic in goal was awesome tonight. Absolutely awesome. And as we were talking, I think it was Jason who once again mentioned it, either before we came on the air or in his opening words. I mean, he was literally from corners plucking the ball out of the air. We looked as though we could defend set pieces. I never felt for one moment from a set piece we were going to concede. And I haven't felt that way for an awful long while. And, you know, there will be members of our fan base who say, well, see what we can do without Romero. You know, and Mickey van der Ven relies on pace. We just defended tonight when we had to. And it's a different type of football that we played tonight. And it's down to the manager and the plan and what he wants to do. Whether we saw plan B tonight, I don't know.
Yep.
I am skeptical about whether Ange does have a plan B. And I always have said that on this show. But it's a roller coaster being a Spurs fan. And this is one of the absolute heights for us, because in terms of a result, it's right up there. Absolutely fantastic. But it's about keeping it going against teams that we really should be getting very good results against. And we know that. So I just think the whole thing tonight, we would be lying, wouldn't we, when we're 3-0 up thinking, oh, God, if they get one, they'll get two. And, you know, a Brighton could happen. That is what being a Spurs fan is all about.
When Johnson scored, Russ, I think I felt all right after that. I thought there's no chance.
Right. And by the way, Timo Werner, Bale-esque in that run, wasn't he?
Unbelievable. He was.
He's turned up a bit recently. I mean, there's all sorts of talk, he's going to go back to Leipzig in January. I don't think he will. But, you know, I mean, what a run. I mean, he's a positive footballer.
Yeah. He was. Listen, again, it's one of those games where everybody gave absolutely everything and was superb. Ange Postecoglou has been speaking to Sky on the back of that game to bring TJ in there. He said, look, on the importance of the scoreline, it's significant. When you understand the context of who we're playing, I'm proud of the lads, the football we played, the resilience and discipline we showed. When you play City, they test you in every single aspect of your game, and we handled that ever so well. It was an important game for us. The way the boys reacted to that defeat to Ipswich, it's easy when you're under pressure to splinter off, but I never got the sense that would happen this week. The disappointing thing over the last few games is we've fallen short of the kind of team we want to be, but I've got absolutely no doubt we are right on the track of where I want this Tottenham team to be. And Ange also did make a point to address that speculation I spoke about at the top of this show with relation to maybe there being disenchantment in the camp. And he came back and said, I've never believed the players have lost belief in our way. Well, look, TJ, we've got to say, on the back of that performance, it definitely showed the players were with him. But again, what we do see with this Spurs side is they have dizzying heights like this one. They do have their lows, but I'll make that point. Nobody could be critical of that performance, that result. And many may feel, again, this has been used under Ange in other games like City recently, like United away. Is that the landmark win he may need, as you said, to put it to one side of the Ange out debate and just allow this guy to build
certain things to the side? And again, you know, from my opinion, I'm a huge fan of Ange, was from day one, and have never doubted him. And just in the last episode, I said, what good would it do getting rid of this man who clearly has a plan, who clearly wants us to play exciting Tottenham Hotspur brand football? My goodness, to dare is to do. Has there ever been a more daring manager in the modern Premier League than this man? So I'm so happy for him personally. And also, I do want to, you know, reach out to those fans who are perhaps, you know, a lot of them will be having a knee-jerk, angry reaction to losing a game that we should have won. And I completely understand that. But potentially to really look at this man and question whether he might well be the person to take us to the promised land. He plays the kind of football that we want to play. It's certainly exciting. Is it consistent? No, it isn't. But again, like, he's been with us for such a short amount of time. So really, let's give him a chance, get behind him, support him, and see what we can do. So the next thing I wanted to say was the manner of victories, right? So because I've talked often before about the manner of defeats, which are unacceptable to me and certainly to anybody, which is where we show a lack of effort. So today, every single person in that dressing room should be walking in with their heads held high and also hugging each other and thanking each other. It was such a galvanized team performance today, and they should be proud of themselves and of one another. That spirit, that unity, that, you know, make sure you do right by the man to your left and to your right, and he will do the same for you. It was really, really inspiring. I think this is perhaps a slightly more esoteric or philosophical question or debate, but, we're on this show to hear the opinions of these fabulous panelists and, of course, the people who are viewing and listening. Today, that team felt to me like there weren't a lot of big egos in that side. To me, one of the problems that James Maddison has had and why he hasn't been performing is that I think James Maddison, not all the time, but for a decent amount of time, believed he was better than he actually is, and believed that he deserved to be the first name on the team sheet when he was far from that. So if we look at, for me, our best player by some distance in every single way is Kulusevski. But he never, ever plays or implies in any performance or anything that he says that he feels he has the right to be playing for Tottenham Hotspur. He earns that right. And he earns that right every single day at the training pitch. So today it seemed, I'm not saying they seem like a kind of hapless bunch of misfits who just kind of toughed it out and beat the best team in the world. These are exceptional footballers. However, they played for themselves, they played for each other, they played for the manager, and they played for the badge and for the fans. And that often is that 2-3% difference that you need to win the game of football at this level. And so it was the manner of that victory, the selfless, egoless victory. Put your body on the line, put yourself in those Pedro Porro putting himself where he gets kicked. Sarr was incredible. Basuma, incredible. Maddison, bang, got kicked. Vicario, boom, got kicked. Toughed it out and got us over the line. And I was so proud of those boys today, man. Fantastic victory. I've
got to say on this point before we bring Jason in. TJ, thank you so much. So many valid points there that you're going to bring me on to Kulu in a second. I want him to have his own section before, like I say, we do go for that first break. I mean, Basuma, to play 89 minutes on a booking and to not get sent off. Basuma's been very critical at times with regards to, his, maybe we'd say lackadaisical approach, the fact that he does lack composure at times, to have, a tackle implored in the first. It was inside the first 15 seconds. Basuma went into Foden. You're thinking, how is this guy going to be able to stay on the rails until, later in the game? But absolute credit to Basuma, because I think this is what we can see again, as I make that point, many, many fans will be frustrated about, because we're seeing the qualities and the potential of what these players are about. But there's no doubt about it. When people talk about Tottenham's player of the season, the player that is very much, you've got to say, been the one that many have looked to turn towards this season, it has been Dejan Kulusevski. Jace, I have to ask you about Decky, because, I made that point for me that when I last saw a player, galvanise a team, really stand out from the team at a time. And maybe, again, you could argue the year I'm going to go back to, he had many standout players. I think of Moussa Dembele and the way that guy would look so elegant in midfield, the way that guy would take the ball, drive forward, beat one or two. And Decky has got that ability in games to simply quite influence it himself. How good, Jace, maybe for those that, I know there's lots of rival fans, opposition fans that tune and watch Last Word on Spurs. How would you summarise the transformation of Dejan Kulusevski for you this season since coming to the club? Just how good has he been, in your opinion?
I think the first probably 12, 18 months, he was excellent when he first came. I thought last year he had a little dip, which isn't unusual. But this year, right from pre-season, he looked absolutely bang on it, didn't he, in pre-season? And we all thought the move centrally had brought the best out of him. But today he's done his work out wide as well. And he's just, Tottenham have dubbed it this week, haven't they? The deck he had, because he's, it's 4 years he's been outstanding there. The one slight thing I would say with Decky, and I don't want to criticise him, obviously, after today, but he made a comment, I think, after the League Cup tie against Manchester City, when he said, Manchester City bring out the best in me. I'm always ready for Manchester City. And that's the thing that we have to get out of these players, that Fulham and Ipswich and Crystal Palace have to be just as important to him as Manchester City. And this is why we get the roller coaster. And when some of the criticisms of Pochettino has been, when he talks about the Arsenal game and he says, look, to me, it's just an ordinary game. It's important that it's, just another one. And all the supporters lose their heads. This is what he's getting at. That, to have that consistency, every game has to be played at that level, not just Arsenal games and Manchester City games and Old Trafford away. You've got to do that week in, week out. And it's not Ange that lacks the consistency, it's the players. But Decky, in fairness, Decky has been on a consistent level. I think Decky's played, he was poor at Palace, Decky, but other than that, he's been probably
phenomenal.
our best player this season.
Yeah.
He was outstanding today, strong as an ox. The ball in for the first goal was exceptional. The bit of play for the third goal was exceptional. And I think, right, Maddison, I haven't seen the fallout from Sky, so I presume Maddison probably got the brick for the 2 goals. But Decky's performance today was he was as dominant almost as Kane was a couple of seasons ago up there, wasn't it? It was outstanding performance.
And
Russ,
it's the same.
How good has he been, Decky?
It's the same for the Swedish national team. He is the baller, and they've got Enquiries and some really terrific players. I don't know if you saw the clip in the dressing room before they went out when he said, "Are you hungry? Är du hungrig in Swedish? I'm hungry. Let's go." He said, "Vi äter nu," as they say in Swedish. We eat now. And they went out and he got 2 goals. Yeah. So that's elite player mentality, to feel like you're a leader. And he demonstrates that regularly. I mean, I could think of far more games when he's played really well for us, or well above average compared to some of them, than he's played badly. I mean, Jason's right. Palace, he was completely off his game, but he is, he's a beast, as Jane Lambert is saying. He's our golden boy, as Saz30 says. I'm looking at the comments, and at the moment, he is. But he's got that key thing: mentality and skill. Very, very dangerous, and he's a brave footballer, and we should expect a lot of him, and expect a lot of his attitudes to transfer to a lot of his teammates.
You've absolutely, can I just say on this point, Russ, thank you so much for some of those qualities there you share about him in the Swedish perspective as well. Tito, you've said often on this show just how much Decky's elegance is one of those things that makes him the player that he is, the way he can breeze past players. I mentioned that reference earlier to Dembele, that comparison. Am I being able by saying that? Are we seeing that kind of player that is really transforming, guiding this team? And as Jason said, if we can see that across the board, 38 games, and please God more, with some cup finals in there, would be lovely. How impressed have you been with Decky over the course of this season? The transformation since, like I say, actually this time around, we played him on the wing. Normally we've been playing him as a number 10, but he's just shown he's got this capability. And credit to Ange, because Ange tweaked it. He did play him out wide. And again, I'll make that point. Absolute credit to Ange Postecoglou for making that change for this one.
Absolutely. And that was a huge call, a huge call, because there's no shadow of a doubt that Decky has been by far our best player so far this season. I mean, a talisman, like not just our best player, but absolutely essential. I mean, if we didn't have him, we'd really, really be in trouble. And so, hats off to the manager once again for pushing him out onto the right and starting James Maddison in the number 10 position. And to Jason's point, I mean, that ball for the first goal was outstanding. What a wand of a left foot he has. However, his footwork to set up, I think it was the third goal, Jay. It was the third goal. I think he nutmegged Bernardo Silva left to right past Akanji, beat somebody else, is getting walloped on both sides, stayed on his feet, and then played it through to Son, who's played it through to Solanke, who, of course, played it back to Porro with a superb finish. So what I've said as well about Decky before on this show is that, to Russ's point about mentality and this desire that he has to really stamp his authority on every match, is that Decky has openly said he wants to be the best player in the world. He really does. He wants to be the best player in the world. So as far as elite mentality, it doesn't get higher than that. I'm sure we would have seen a lot of the comments. It was posted, by the Last Word on Spurs on X, him saying that one of the things that he thinks is missing from this current crop of Tottenham players is there's a little bit of softness in training. We also have to understand that he's a young man, a very articulate and eloquent and clearly a very intelligent young man. However, he's speaking English as a second language. And so I don't think he was calling the players soft. I think he was saying that our training facilities are almost too nice. They're almost too comfortable. And so every time that you enter that facility, and actually if you look at sort of star ratings on hotels, the Tottenham training facility we've listed as a 7-star hotel. That's just a fact. That's not an opinion. You know, they're rated on, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And Tottenham checks every single one of those boxes. It's a 7-star hotel. And so it's perhaps difficult for a lot of those players to understand this is where we train for battle. You know, it doesn't look like that arena outside the Colosseum where Maximus and all of his friends are, you know, whacking each other with wooden swords before they go in to the arena that weekend and fight for their lives. And so I love this attitude that he has. I love this shameless optimism and drive that he has. We need winners. Dare I say we need killers. And we have one in Dejan Kulusevski.
Yeah, he is, like I say, in terms of that footballing sense, like you say, an absolute killer on the field. And again, I will make that point. We're going to go on more onto James Maddison, definitely in the second part of this show. But James wanted to emphasise the point after the game for him. And I say, we're going to come on to his goals very, very shortly, that he wanted to emphasise his point. This is the real Spurs. This is the Spurs that we work towards. We don't have anything in that game. That 90 minutes is what we want Spurs to be and what we have to strive for consistently. And Ange actually said on James Maddison that he was outstanding. You have to be against City. And Maddison was great. He's gone through a lean spell, but I never doubted his ability. I thought the kind of game we were expecting would suit him. I thought we need his ability to keep the ball in tight midfield areas. I take it personally on myself if players aren't reaching their level. That's on me to get them back up to there. I mean, very honest from Ange Postecoglou. And you know what? It's very much that responsibility that, with all due respect, Jace, we haven't seen from previous managers that would normally say it's up to the player to look at themselves first before the manager actually takes the responsibility for the player's performance. I mean, I did say we're going to go to a break, but I feel like we can't on the back of those words from Ange Postecoglou. What do you make of that, Jace? The words there from Ange, very much saying, look, it was up to me to get James back to that level. And again, I'll come on to his goal and assists, actually been really good against the top four during his period in the Premier League. How much credit do you give Ange for those comments there to really apportion himself along with James to finding the best James Maddison?
Well, I think one of the first things you take from that is that Ange doesn't pick a team on the name reputation, does he? You know, Maddison hasn't been performing at the level we know he can do, and he's found himself out of the team. And people have questioned whether he's lost the trust of the manager, and particularly Ipswich when we're 2-0 down for 85 minutes before he came on. It seemed that he had gone backwards, but he's obviously poked the bear enough. He said it did help with Madders being back at Hotspur way right the way through the international break, a chance to work, chance to do a little bit of extra work, which you don't get if you go away on international football. And he made him a big part of that performance. He's brought him in for one of the biggest games of the season, and he's inspired as he actually played really well, I think, at Old Trafford as well. So, it is man management. I think a few people had a pop at Ange when he was asked, I think in the last international break, about Maddison, and he said, well, it takes more than a free kick. It was for the Aston Villa game, he scored the free kick, didn't he? He said he needs to score more than a free kick to get back. And I think a lot of people thought, well, that's a bit of a harsh thing to say, but, Ange knows these players. He's worked hard with them all, and he thinks maybe it's time to be a little bit tougher on Madders, to really push him out of it. And it's worked today, and now it's up to Madders to keep today's form and build on this performance and be there in this way, because, he was poor in Galatasaray. He was totally anonymous in Turkey. And we know that Madders has got this performance in him, but he was exceptional today. The two goals, I mean, the second goal was just pure quality, absolute quality in it. And it's just a fantastic day all round, isn't it, for everyone associated today.
Yeah, totally agree. James actually said to close that interview, these are the rare days to come to the champions, given how much they've dominated. To win 4-0 is special. These are the days you remember. It's important we enjoy it, and I'm certainly going to enjoy it. So what we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. There's over 6,000 of you that are watching us live, the equivalent of the away end, can I just say, that were going absolutely berserk. And they were going berserk, and rightly so. It was an unbelievable performance from Spurs, of course, at the Etihad. The Dekihad, they will rightly call it. I mean, me and Jace were laughing during the week. Jay said, what are they doing? Spurs official posting Dekihad. What are they doing? Why are they thinking of putting that out there? But to be fair, Decky always performs at the Etihad, and that's why, rightly so, it's called the Dekihad. A reminder for you, if you aren't aware, listen, we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Nord have been our long-term sponsors of Last Word on Spurs. And look, for those that we always mention this point, going away, our European journey, please God, it's going to take you all the way to the final and back. You're going to need Nord in your life to hopefully steer you through to watch your favourite programmes right now back at home. And for those at home right now, I know many are loving, even Jason watches this one, a bit of I'm a Celebrity. I know someone watching a bit of I'm a Celebrity out there. So you can still watch that away from home and abroad by going and checking out NordVPN. We've got a QR code there for you to hit. We give you 4 extra months for free on a 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-back money guarantee. And those may be aware, as Jason, I think it's quite saying it, we're losing Jason for a couple of months, aren't we, Jason? You'll be needing Nord, is that fair?
Yep, I'll be using the old NordVPN in Thailand for plenty of the games, so I'm looking forward to that. But I just want to, I'm going to go totally off script, Rick. I just want to make one complaint. I got one complaint.
A complaint? You were the one who told me I've got to keep it positive. A complaint? What's going on here?
To the stadium Thursday.
Okay.
Which was 6 days after the North London Women's Derby. That is still up in the stadium.
And I got to say, for our listeners on audio, that is the picture of us welcoming Arsenal. Yes, that I know is
it's
made.
An outrage.
Still up in the stadium. 6 days after that derby. I have a problem with it going up in the first place, but okay, it's modern football. It should say, something off back to Woolwich or something on that sign. But for that sign to still be up 6 days on from that day, from that game, when it's now a week on, is an absolute disgrace. And somebody at Tottenham needs to really have a look at that and think, how the hell have we allowed a sign like that to stay up in our stadium? It's a joke.
Yeah.
So if anyone listens to Tottenham or anyone emails into Tottenham, can you please bring that up and say, get the maintenance man out with a screwdriver and take that bloody sign down.
Right. Well,
that's it. By the way, Rick, can I just say another point of order?
Please.
Jason, you really shouldn't be watching I'm a Celebrity, mate. Trust me. It's the same old crap year after year. Groundhog TV.
You know what's going to happen now? You're going to say that. I'm going to lose TJ and Russ there next season, and we'll all be running.
No. There's not a chance, mate, and I mean it. But Jason is spot on about that. I mean, it made me feel physically ill when I saw it the other night. And the food was lovely, so I did keep it down.
Thank you, Russ. Can I just say, Russ, in 12 months' time, when you and TJ are eating bugs, I'll be playing this clip back to you both. Can I just say? But they're both telling me no. They're both affirming me no.
Not a chance.
We shall see. I've got to say, Pep Guardiola said on the back of that game, when you lose 4-0, there is nothing to say but congratulate Tottenham. And again, we make that point for Pep. You know, he is going through a tricky period at Manchester City, but that should not take away what that win is for Tottenham Hotspur. You know, the last team to beat Man City at the time, lost 5 games in a row, was 2006. The 15th to beat him on that journey, you got it right. It was Tottenham Hotspur. It was Tottenham Hotspur. So we have got form in this. We really, really have. We're going to whisk around to the team for this one. Spurs did put out. Ange made 3 changes to his Tottenham team to face Man City. He brought in Yves Bissouma to replace the suspended Rodrigo Benson-Core, while Ben Davies came in for Christian Romero. James Maddison, who we've heavily discussed already, came back into the team. It was a 28th birthday start for James. You have to go back to the 27th of October for his last Premier League start. Ange made the decision to move Decky up to right wing with Brennan Johnson on the bench. 16-year-old Malachi Hardy, the England under-17 captain, the only natural centre-back amongst the substitutes, with Archie Gray also able to play there, and 17-year-old midfielder Callum Cisse also amongst the subs. It was a bold, it was a daring, it was a doing selection from Ange Postecoglou. See what I did there? Bold, daring, doing. Don't tell me I haven't got the puns. I've got them somewhere. I have. Early in that game, as I said, Basuma, many would have had concern. You know, we're 16, 17 seconds in. I'm sure Ange says to the lads, look, whatever we do, keep it tight. Don't go crazy. Just keep us balanced in the first couple of seconds of the game. What does Basuma do? 15, 16 seconds in, absolutely storms into Phil Foden from behind and picks up the yellow card. But look, I've got to be honest with you, that was, you know, if anything from there, Spurs accelerated and James Maddison brought us on our way. A birthday goal for the boy. Dragusin pinging a lovely ball downfield. Pedro Porro got it, cut inside, hit a lovely left-footed ball into the path for James to volley home with his left foot. And I've got to say, Spurs' first touch in City's box. And Jason, you've said it often on this show about Tottenham and Man City. It just, we've got something there. We've got something at the Etihad, but not taken away, James. James, I called you James tonight. Jace, the efficiency, the quality of Decky's finish. Just how good was that for us, Jace? And we need you to unmute for us if you can.
Sorry, Rick, I didn't hear any of that. I beg your pardon, mate.
No problem. Just how good was James's finish for that opening goal?
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant finish, brilliant run. And when you put that still up, actually, you look at the shape of Man City's back four. You know, in amongst all the people that say Ange can't coach defensively, look at the state of Manchester City's back four. It's all over the place. And yet only Tottenham, you know, can't defend properly, apparently. What a ball from Decky. And yeah, the finish, totally cool. Didn't try, just use the pace of the ball, didn't he? Didn't try and lash at it. Just really cushioned it in. It reminded me a little bit like the finish Osimhen scored against us, where it just, you know, used the pace of the ball and just cushion it off. So brilliant goal, brilliant run, brilliant pass. Just outstanding movement by Tottenham all the way through.
It was. And like I say, just to bring that into context as well for James, when you look at overall the statistics as well, an interesting one here, Maddison is the first Spurs player to score a Premier League goal on his birthday since Christian Eriksen in 2016, which also came away against Man City. Cue the celebrations. And Decky's involvement now against City in the Premier League, 6 games, 6 goal assists for him, and almost a second goal for Spurs immediately after that as Son curled a beauty from range as Edison tipped it over at the last moment. But very quickly, Russ, it was 2 goals for James, 2 goals for Spurs. They win it high up the pitch. They most certainly do. And you know what? It's, again, a lovely 1-2 with Sonny before the midfielder chips a great effort over the unrushing goalkeeper. I mean, I've got to say, Russ, the way James takes both goals, that's not a player that is short on confidence, is it? The quality of the goals and the way he takes them.
Absolutely not. It's a player who's got that in his locker and a lot more besides. And we saw the free kick, of course, in it fairly recently at home. I mean, I thought the second goal was a magnificent team goal. And the ending, I mean, it just, as it went through that move, and the ending from Maddison was the best bit of the lot, as it should be. And, you know, to do that on your birthday and on the boss's 50th game in charge, I mean, there's a lot of satisfaction, I think, to be taken from the first goal, obviously, but the second one I really did think was a brilliant team goal.
It was superb. And, you know, again, to illustrate really James as a player, TJ, coming over to you, he's now scored 4 goals in his last 8 Premier League games for Tottenham, as many as in his first 32 for the club combined. When you look at away goals vs the Premier League Big Six, James stands tall on 8. He's ahead of Luis Suarez, Didier Drogba, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Torres, Ronaldo. In terms of, again, you look at the stats when it comes to, you know, the player in general, he does lead the way over many of these aspects when it comes to high-profile games against certainly the top 4 away from home. Is it just a fact with James, again, like we've said with many of these players, it's finding, TJ, that consistency?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody would ever doubt his quality. You know, he's a player that we've talked about, not we necessarily, but the footballing world, if you like, certainly in England, have been talking about for years and years and years since he was back at Leicester. You know, he's an exceptional player, came through the academy at United and you know, left United with a bit of a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And he's gone on and proved himself. My only concern with James is, I don't want to say his attitude, because I don't think that's wanting across the board. There is a certain aspect about his attitude, which is a little bit of unhealthy arrogance, which I think kind of undoes him at times. When unhealthy arrogance sort of slips into complacency or gives a player a feeling of superiority to the degree that they don't have to earn their place in the team every time they step into the training ground, certainly onto the pitch, for game time. You still have to earn your place. And of course, performances like that today make him undeniable. They make him, not only undeniable for Tottenham, but, potentially gets him back into the England squad, which I know is something that's very important to him. So, I don't have any concerns today. I'm feeling nothing but delighted. I just hope that James can kind of have a look at himself and say, listen, mate, this is how good you are. So if you are feeling a bit down and having a bit of a moan and perhaps thinking, why aren't I making the squad? Keep playing like this, brother, and you'll be in the squad every single week. And then, of course, competition for places. Again, we've said this a million times on the show. I know Russ has said it many times. Jason said it many times. So have you, Rick. So many of the other panelists. Competition for places is always a good thing, right? It's always a good thing. You want to think, how well do I have to play to displace Decky? How well do I have to play to displace Johnson? How well do I have to play to displace Maddison or Sonny or whoever it is? These are all good problems to have. Just before we move on to the next thing, I just want to big up Dom Solanke again, man. I love this guy. I love him. I love his effort. I love his tenacity. And for me, he encapsulates the attitude that I was just talking about. Here's a man who never thinks that he is an absolute given, although of course he's Spurs' new number 9, and Richie can't walk down the stairs without pulling a muscle, and so yes, he's going to make the team, and yet every single time he puts on a Tottenham shirt and plays for us, my goodness, this boy runs himself into the ground. And also, he's such a physical presence. Akanji and Ake really struggled with him today. And did you notice again, like how no plan B, Ange, all of a sudden we had our fullbacks, pinging long balls up to Dom every now and again, just to keep them honest, as they say, an old footballing expression from back in the day. He was such a handful today, and he never stops running. He also pulls defenders out of position because, if you don't go get that ball as a defender, he's going to come get it. He's going to come and get it. He'll run 60 yards from clearing a corner and just run up into the corner if he thinks he can nick that ball. So big up to him, man. Big up to all the players today, man. They were magnificent.
Yeah. Absolutely. Jason,
Rick, can I just very quickly interject there?
Please.
For all the running and the pressing that Dominic Solanke does, his job is to get 20 goals a season. Okay, minimum. That's his job.
Yep.
That's what we pay big money for.
Yep.
For me, at the moment, the jury's out. So I hope he will do it. But we mustn't get carried away. Running around. What's that got to do with the price of fish? Not a lot.
No, for sure. I think that's fair, Russ. But I also think his work and his pulling defenders and everything out of position and his ability to assist as well is why we've scored more goals than anybody else, and like why we're a team where kind of everybody scores. So you're absolutely right. Like, we want him to be that 15 to 20 goal a season player for sure. But his work rate and his ability to pull defenders left and right and provide assists and to inspire a press, I think has been really, really impressive. Of course, he's got more work to do, but I think his contributions thus far to this team have been absolutely fundamental, in my opinion.
And also, to kind of say on him, I think I'm the first one to always hold players a certain standard and capability. And whilst I agree, Russ, I think the outside will most certainly judge the goal contributions. I've got to say what he does bring to this Spurs team is the element of the build-up play that is so integral and so important that I think, without him in the team, we look a lot weaker. We look like we're going to do less in terms of creativity, in terms of work rate. And I think the way he does do not only the defensive job, but brings others into play, I do think at the moment he's making up really when you're looking at the accumulation of the goals, if you want to judge him on the goal charts. But look, there's no doubt about it, Russ. Ultimately, like you say, at the end of the day, he will be judged on goals. But I think, I think, Jace, do you agree with me? I think I see enough from his build-up play alone to say,
I'm greedy, Rick. That's all. I'm greedy. I want everything.
Listen, you're entitled to be, mate. You're entitled to be.
We've got to be hungry, right? As Decky said. Like, one of your own. We've got to be hungry to feast. I mean, Jace, do you see enough from Solanke at the moment in terms of that overall contribution? Because I certainly do.
I absolutely do. I've been, I'm the opposite. I've been really impressed with him. He's done a lot more build-up play than I thought. I think his touch has been good. He's a real physical presence up there. How many goals has he now scored? 6 or 7?
I think overall you're looking at, I think 5 or 6 to be fair to him in terms of we're looking at the whole in all comps. But again, I will make that point in terms of what
was exceptional. I think his goal in Turkey with the with the reverse, the back heel. He led the line brilliantly at Man United. I mean, his second half performance in that West Ham game, when he was absolutely battering West Ham, and we scored 3 or 4 on the back of that. So no, I've been really pleased with his contribution, and I think I said it actually in the group tonight. I wish we could get him involved in the between the width of the posts just a little bit more. So I can kind of understand what Russ means. A lot of the crosses go to the man on the far side, as we see with Werner for Johnson's goal and things, rather than into Solanke. But I've seen plenty from Solanke to think it's going to be.
I'd go out on a bit of a limb as well to add to that, Jason, because I'm a huge fan of his, as I just said. I'd also give a shout. Thus far, he's been our most consistent player. I mean, listen,
Decky as well. Him and Decky.
It's not been a very high bar. And listen, when Decky's off it like a tiny bit, it's a huge difference because he's such a good player. Yeah. I think Solanke has been our most consistent player just because of his willingness. Talking about egoless players, this I don't know him. I haven't really seen him speaking that much. I bet people who know him just say he's the loveliest young man you'd ever meet. I bet he feels like that. He just feels like such a selfless, self-assured, kind, kind of loyal person. And you can see that in the way that he plays. Football does kind of unearth people's personalities a lot of the time. You really see it. I play every Friday, right? I play every Friday night with my team over here. And I was saying to my wife last night when I came, you can really see, like, when you go down a couple of goals, how some people react and how others react.
Very true.
He just seems like such a thoroughly decent, workman-like young man. And I really, really like this kid, man. I'm really happy that he's at Tottenham. I'd love him to get a couple more goals, and I think
I'm happy to eat my words. I'm just slightly and it's
Russ,
slightly.
Russ,
I mean, I
Russ,
really like the bloke.
Russ, you're a Spurs fan. You're allowed to be, mate.
I'm allowed to be sceptical. And I want him to be the best striker we've ever had. That won't happen because that was Harry Kane or Jimmy Greaves or whatever.
Somebody's just asked me where I play, and somebody's guessed that I'm a CM. You're absolutely right. I am a CM. Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm so gobby, I'm the captain, right?
Someone's got to lead the troops. If TJ can't do it, we are bloody screwed with that mouth he's got, I tell you.
Thank you, Harry. Yeah, good guess, mate.
Can I just say on that point, Russ, you bring up there? I mean, I think it's really important we make this point about players that, sometimes that maybe don't have that ego. And I think this is the one thing with Dom that people need to bear in mind. He's not following any kind of footballer. He's following arguably the greatest modern day footballer we've had at this football club in Harry Kane, which is always, I think, a difficult job to do, because the problem is he will always be judged against what Harry Kane does because he's the next one in line, which maybe isn't fair. I mean, I saw Harry Kane the other night, as Jason said to me, he recreated the Bundesliga logo with regards to the goal he scored the other night. Unbelievable for Bayern Munich. And I made that point, I said how devastating it was to lose Harry in his team. But Dominic, to be fair to him, he's a different kind of striker. He's not, with all due respect, an all-action kind of player. What he does do that I really like is he brings other players into play. He really, I think, allows other players to get into the game where sometimes they're not as efficient as featuring, whether it be off both wings. So, look, I think with Dom, there's a lot more to come. I do want to take a viewer and listener statement, if I can, into this show from Philip King, who said, Jace, come over here. We need to address the tactics more, because the fact is that when we allow other teams to have more of the ball, we are attacking much better and be defensively more solid. Would you agree on that point with regards to the tactics for you?
Yes and no. I mean, in fairness tonight, how many saves has Vicario made today? He still made a number of saves. Haaland, on another day, Haaland scores 3 or 4 tonight. So sometimes the result doesn't tell you everything about the tactical side of the game. That's for sure. I've always said that. Players have still got to execute the tactical thing. I still want to see us have more of the ball. I mean, Manchester City dominate the ball so much that sometimes how they play dictates what you end up playing like. I'm sure if you said to Ange, do you want to play that way? Even he'd say no. But sometimes City force you to play a certain way because, whatever you do, you can't stop City getting the ball. But no, I mean, we've dominated the ball against Villa and we've gone and won the game before. We dominated the ball against West Ham. We've gone by 4. Sometimes just though you just need certain things to go in your favour with it. And today, Everything's worked out perfectly for us. It did at Man United. Yet, like we said, on another day, Vicario doesn't make a couple of saves. You know, Dragusin's one at the end goes in the back of our net, and we're all moaning and groaning at the fact that our tactical system has seen us concede 3 or 4 again. It's a strange one.
Yeah, totally agree on that point. And like I say, just to kind of round up that first half, which, you know, again, for Spurs, to be fair to them, they had their chances we discussed. And I think what I do want to bring into account now is Sonny is now one of 2 players having been directly involved in 10 plus goals versus Pep Guardiola's side. And in terms of the most Premier League assists in Tottenham's club history now, Son stands at 66. Darren Anderson at 66. It's one more for the outright record for Heung-Min Son. And again, to make the point about Sonny, there's been some critics of him this season. When you're looking at away GAs in the Premier League versus the Big Six, Heung-Min Son is up there. He's on 18. He is leading the way from Robin van Persie on 17, Frank Lampard on 17. And again, you know, you've got to say with Sonny, GAs versus the Premier League Big Six now. You look at the Big Six, that was the Big Four. The Big Six, Sonny, 33, tied with Rashford and Raheem Sterling, with Riyad Mahrez 1 behind. And again, Sonny's a player that can still have a massive, massive impact on games and was still very pivotal to Spurs' win there. As that game progressed in the first half, it was Maddison with a sublime reverse pass between Haaland and Foden at that point, which led to Spurs winning a corner. I think it's fair to say that Maddison was really, I think, proving a point with his performance up until that point. Sonny then found Solanke on the edge of the box, and the striker's shot was tipped over by Ederson. Brilliant save, I've got to say. And this is one of many from Vicario during that game where he denied Savinho before it was flagged for offside. There was one hairy moment, you maybe say, at the back. I mean, many would have been thinking, God, where's this going to go? Pedro Porro's header back to Vicario, landed, Spurs in trouble. Savinho raced after the ball but missed it, and Vicario plucked it out of the air, and that was a fairly close call. Basuma curled one over the bar, as Spurs were pressing at that point for a second goal, but they went in, I say a third goal, should I say, but they went in at half-time. Look, 2-0 up. To some degree, you've got to say, it was an absolutely fantastic first half, defined by 2 incredible individual performances. You had, you know, James Maddison taking the chances which Haaland didn't take early on, and Dejan Kulusevski showing that unbelievable energy that he always seems to show against Manchester City. And, you know, the case going into half-time, I think, for many would be, you know, is there concerns of Brighton away again? Are we going to show that belief, that determination to go out in the second half and really put in a performance where you feel we're not going to allow that to get through to the players? And that's one thing I would say, that's a really big learning point today. It's a really big learning point. You know, it's the champions, they're at home. And I must just make this point. Pep Guardiola has just signed a new contract at that football club. That's massive for that fan base. You know, Rodri was displaying beforehand and Ballon d'Or. So to be fair, a lot of things were pointing towards City going into this game that should make them positive to think to themselves, we can overcome this current form that we're on. 4 defeats in a row for the first time in the Premier League. Spurs, the first team to inflict 5 on them under Pep Guardiola. And can I just sound this point, just I think to correct earlier, this is the heaviest defeat of Pep Guardiola's reign at Man City at home. That is how big that win was for Tottenham. And City made a change at the break. They actually saw Nathan Ake replacing John Stones, but very quickly, it didn't really make a difference. It was 3-0 to Tottenham. And look, I mean, we were at this moment in absolute dreamland. We were, TJ, because Porro, let's say, sweeping home the third, a lovely ball across from Solanke, putting it back for Porro to smash in the far corner, and Postecoglou on the bench, triumphantly raising his fist in just adulation of what he was seeing out on that field, where Porro hit that ball in the back of the net. TJ, at that point, I think you messaged me and said, bro, are we going to have an exciting show?
Yeah, I mean, again, just such a great team goal, and you know, born from a bit of wizardry from Decky and vision from Sonny, and again, you know, work rate and vision from Solanke. People talk about his first touch as well. Like, Dom's first touch is exceptional, man, especially for such a big dude. You know, he's a big guy, and his feet, he's got lovely, delicate feet, and again, selfless vision to lay off the perfect pass there for Porro. And of course, listen, those aren't easy. If you actually, that still is perfect, you know, chest way down over the ball, watching the ball, you know, body shape is perfect. You've got to give that a little bit of height, and you've got to give it plenty of whip if you want to get it past Ederson. And didn't he do it well? You know, side netting it in is so satisfying, man. to your point before, Rick, about consistency, and of course, this is something that Tottenham fans, we're going to talk about this for our, I don't know, for our lives. But, this has been a pretty, ironically, consistent element of Tottenham teams over the years is consistency. I think, again, a lot of the viewers and listeners have got it right. And it was Jason as well who made the point that a lot of that is on the players, not on the manager, So whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself motivated before the game, people like Decky have got that in spades. Again, to Russ's point, he's going to come out and say, in Swedish and then in English, I'm hungry tonight, I'm going to eat, or whatever it is. Like he's got that desire. Not everybody's built like that. So one thing that we've got to get out of the mentality is a complacency or a kind of negative arrogance that you feel that you deserve to be playing for the team. The other thing as well that I think we need is a bit more kind of fire. So if we're not going to go and play against a big glamour team, a big 6 team, we think, we should be okay here. Like when we go away to somewhere like Bournemouth, you know what I mean? Like you come out of that dressing room, like I said, like they do on Friday Night Lights, like come out, like the Dillon Panthers after Coach Taylor has just given you a really rousing speech. Like Ange is a very kind of softly spoken, very quiet, very, again, articulate, very funny man. I really do enjoy most of his interviews. I do hope, though, that sometimes in the dressing room, when the players need a little bit of fire, he's going to give that to them, because those are going to be really, really important games, man. Like if we want to finish top 4 this season and then potentially push on for something next season, those away games at places like Bournemouth are going to be absolutely fundamental. Yeah. And of course, as we've seen, those are the games where we tend to come unstuck. So that's something that I think I would like to see us working on, as being motivated for the no disrespect, quote, lesser teams than the big glamour clubs.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. I mean, look, it's interesting. On Porro, to go back to Pedro Porro, there has been reports that he's been eyed up by the likes of Madrid and Manchester United. And look, I think I can see a lot of good qualities in Pedro Porro. I think another player that is really very much progressing under Ange, but I think at the same time, again, as you said, TJ, it's that consistency piece. He's now got more goal contributions, 19, than any other defender in the Premier League since making his Tottenham debut. So it just shows you, with regards to Porro as a player, he is growing. But again, there'll be some that will hold him to higher account. And, I think, again, don't get me wrong, Porro's finish is fantastic, but that goal again, just to bring it back to that point, it is about Dejan Kulusevski. This show is going to be about Decky, because, the skill and the strength in those tight situations where he nutmegs Gundogan, barrels past another challenge, and then plays the ball to Solanke, it was simply world-class stuff. And that's why, again, we've made that point on this show of just what a special, special player Dejan Kulusevski is for Tottenham, and how emphasis he was in terms of this game. And Spurs, at that point, were the first team to score 3 goals against Man City in the Premier League since Spurs did in December of 2023. It's funny TJ mentioned Bournemouth there, because, Jace, you're up in the sky for Bournemouth. So that'll be an interesting experience for you, where you won't know that result for about 12 hours, will you?
I want us to be 4-0 up at half-time when I take off, that's for sure.
Just on this point, Jace, again, when we talk about players that are finding their way, find their consistency, Porro's one that has shown really good periods. Porro's shown one that defensively can switch off at times. Is that, again, as we talk about that consistency, as TJ says, it's more on the players as well, along with the manager, to find that it can't just be one person. It's got to be, as we've said before, collective, but at the same time, individually, players working to find that balance in their game.
Yeah, you got to get that balance. I mean, we like both our fullbacks when they're going forward, but they are both defensively suspect. And, I mean, Trent is, isn't he? Trent is the ultimate brilliant one going forward, but he's defensively suspect. And yet, you look at somebody like an Ashley Cole or a Gary Neville that were brilliant defensively, but weren't always the best going up the other end. So, even as supporters, you've got to balance out what do you want your fullbacks to be? Do you want them to be attacking fullbacks, or do you want them to be, defensively stronger at the best of times? But sometimes it's just to improve his awareness. The goals that we conceded to Vardy, to Danny Welbeck's header where he's totally switched off, and even last week with the bicycle kick from Schmodix. It's just getting that little bit more awareness and sensing danger in Porro, rather than being completely, looks like he loses focus on the back post. But today, I thought even defensively he was much better against the back post. He stopped a lot of balls coming into the box, and it's just finding that, as you say, it's getting that balance right. But he can improve defensively, that's for sure, and he needs to. But if he can sort that out, you have got one hell of a fullback, because we know his quality going forward can give us a lot.
Yeah. Now, ironically, Russ, as Spurs put in the third, there were chants being aimed at Pep Guardiola, who has just penned a new deal, saying you're getting sacked in the morning. Look, the episode of this show is always Last Word on Spurs belongs to Tottenham. I just wonder, how much of that game for you was Tottenham being at their absolute brilliance and City being poor? Or do you just forget all that and just say, look, do you know what? That was so good from Tottenham that they made City look as poor as what they showed in that game.
Well, I think for what it's worth, City's last few games have not been very good, but they're at home. They've got the Ballon d'Or winner there, their teammate Rodri, who can't play. They've got Guardiola, who signed a two-year deal. They had a bit of a setback in the courts, didn't they, on Friday over finances, and there's a much bigger case going on. But really, it should have been a feel-good night at the Etihad, and I think it's totally down to the way we played. The manager set us up, the tactics, the way the tactics were followed. I thought that the pressing, for example, for most of the first half from us was absolutely ferocious, and it was no coincidence that we managed to put in such a sparkling performance that we're all delighted about. It's quite funny. You sit and look at some of the comments that are coming in, and we're accused of not being happy about it. I mean, I don't know if these people are drinking jungle juice or something. They've had too much. We're absolutely delighted about it. And we've schooled Manchester City, the champions, beaten them twice, by the way, in a matter of a few weeks. And we've beaten them. And no other Premier League fans would have said, none, from any other clubs, that Tottenham Hotspur would go to City and win 4-0 and win so convincingly. It's a very positive thing to grab onto, but we must always keep in the back of our minds Palace and Ipswich and Brighton. And maybe it is part of a process. I think it's right, Rick, that we've questioned the manager over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. But I think it's right when we recognise that actually he's done something way above the call of duty and has shown us a glimpse of this sort of promised land. Storm Ange turned up at the Etihad tonight, and we all want that to be the norm. We're all playing for the same team in inverted commas, aren't we? So
we are.
I think we overwhelmed the champions in confidence, in play, and in devastating finishing, and it could have been more than 4.
I think that's really important you say that, Russ, because again, many would maybe again switch this on that maybe haven't watched the whole game and some didn't actually out there. Again, I'll make this point. I know Last One on Spurs is watched by not only Tottenham fans, it's watched by a lot of opposition fans. I know Jason's thinking, why are they watching me? Why are they watching this? They do, Jason. They bloody do, I tell you.
We got one in here now. I mean, it's just called Tottenham a good club, and yet here he is on a Saturday night.
West Ham
podcast has just won 4-0. I mean, go and have a beer, mate. You got nothing better to do with your life than watch a Tottenham podcast. I mean, it's bonkers.
I will make this point again. I'm going to sound this point again to make this point that we've said here that, it was such a comprehensive win from Tottenham where, again, I'll make this point. It was the essence of the fact that was probably the most convincing I've ever seen Tottenham beat Man City. I know many would say, but we have beaten Man City before, but it was just the fact that how clinical we was. And I look at you opening that half an hour, going to go back to it. Haaland has 2 chances, doesn't take them. Maddison has 2, puts them in the back of the net. And that is the Premier League in essence. It is one of those leagues that if you do not take your chances, you will not get rewarded. So again, you have to credit where credit is due. Spurs were absolutely clinical. They took their chances. They went into halftime being 2-0 up. They may have had concern about the thought of Brighton in the past. They came out. And the great thing about Tottenham was, Jason, which I know you absolutely adore and love, they attacked the game. They never sat back. Under certain other managers, they might have decided to employ a low block. They might have decided to sit on a 2-0. But what Tottenham did, as Ange goes to say, as TJ said earlier, go and kill the game. Tottenham went and absolutely killed the game, and to be fair, decimated it. And again, when you looked at the fact that the later in that game it went, there was a chance for Haaland. He hit the top of the crossbar of a curling effort. Johnson didn't replace Son, who should have been 4-0 up with Solanke. Put Kulusevski into the box, but Ederson got a hand to his shot. Vicario didn't save really well. I mean, this is probably a period you'd say City had a little bit of pressure on Tottenham. Gundogan, Haaland, but Vicario really stood firm. And again, I'll make this point. Have I had concerns about Vicario this season? I have, in terms of crosses, but I've always maintained this point with him. He is an absolutely incredible shot stopper. He is. You can't get away from that. His shot stopping is phenomenal. If we can just raise his collection of crosses like his shot stopper, my God, we have got an unbelievable goalkeeper there. And listen, mate, please God, he's working on that, because I think that can be worked on. I think you can work on that. There's certain things with goalkeepers you can't work on. I think over time, when he adjusts to the Premier League, he can most certainly work on that. And I really, really hope for him he can.
His distribution was excellent as well tonight, Rick.
Yeah, really good.
Distribution was superb, man.
Yeah.
He's one of those modern goalkeepers who understands how important it is to break quickly, especially if you're playing Angeball. If you're playing under a manager who wants free-flowing, one-touch passing, end-to-end, exciting football, it's really important that the goalkeeper understands that as well. Many people will say, including Pep Guardiola and others, that the goalkeeper is the most important position on the pitch. And so he really has to understand the system and be alert to that at all times. I don't think anyone would ever question his effort or his dedication or his commitment. And so I thought he had an outstanding game, not just with his stopping, but also with his distribution, both with his feet and with his hands. I also think that, again, we talked about Decky so much tonight, but he was one of the kind of constant outlets, when you're getting tired, right? Like we really worked so hard tonight, but we always knew that you can ping it out onto the right wing, and there he is. And he was always doubled. But again, he's just so strong and so technical. He's always going to give you a problem. Dom Solanke did the same as well. If we wanted to go centrally, he was always there and available. Sonny, when he was on the pitch, again, did the same thing. Porro carried the ball out from the back really well. Basuma and Sarr controlled when we needed to, kind of stand up and be accounted for under pressure. I also thought that Sarr's ability to read when should I go and when should I sit was absolutely spot on this evening. It's such a difficult thing to judge. When do I press a player if I think I can win the ball? And when do I hold back and just see if I can win the second ball after he's played a pass? He was like a praying mantis tonight. Like, he was just so elegant in that attack. And if you give him half an inch, boom, he's coming. And God, he was exceptional tonight. So was Basuma. And again, to the point, he got booked after 15 seconds. You know what, lads? Did that help him? Did that help him? Like, he's such a... He's such an energetic player, right? Such a physical player. And it really matters to him. So perhaps having in the back of his mind, well, don't do anything unless you think you can do it perfect or you'll get sent off. Maybe that helped him tonight.
Yeah. I do agree on that point. As that game wore on, it was all kicking off at one point. Vicario made a fantastic save in that period, as you said, to deny Haaland, and then somebody accidentally booted Sarr when he cleared the ball. A little bit of a coming together. And then in those final stages, we saw Bergvall and Werner replace Maddison and Sarr, while Jed Spence also came on and gave a good cameo. I mean, I said it was Spence. He's looked good every time I've seen Spence this season. And I think Spence will be knocking at that door to hopefully get some games. Please God, Spurs are going to keep on progressing in the Europa League. It will give, obviously, Spurs the opportunity to include Jed in that second phase of the competition. And please God, like I say, we keep going in those cup competitions and he'll get games. But it was, again, to cap off the display, 4-0. And you know what? I will come over to you, Jason, Timo Werner. Russ talked about him earlier, how, we have maybe seen, despite there being heavy criticism, what this guy can do, that, Werner makes this goal. It's turbocharged, as Russ described it, almost Bale-esque, as Bergvall intercepted the ball. Really important that from him. Timo Werner raced down the left flank, pulled it across for the box for Johnson to slide in for 4-0 Tottenham. And, again, it almost, I will make that point, makes it even more convincing the victory. If 3 doesn't, 4 does. How important for Brennan to score, Jace? Because on the bench, you want players like that to come on and make a difference, right?
Absolutely. One sub crosses to the other sub, isn't it? And like we said, in terms of competition, Decky's been pushed out to the right today. Madders has come in, played really well. Decky's gone out. Johnson will think, I wanted to be playing on the right. Decky's gone there, played really well. Johnson comes off the bench, scores. So there's a battle already, isn't it? You know, you got 3 into 2, and one of them's not going to be happy. But that's what you want, the squad pushing. But I mean, in fairness, Timo Werner's career at Tottenham's been a mixed bag, to put it politely. But I mean, it just shows you the sign over Manchester City when he scores against them in the cup with a brilliant finish. And he comes off the bench today and kills Carl Walker completely and sets up that. So even Timo Werner loves playing against Manchester City for Tottenham.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And also, Russ, on this point, I come over to you. How important was it, you know, for Johnson as well? He might have been disappointed not to start the game, to make that impression, to come off the bench, to grab a goal and to show Ange, look, you know, again, he's scored against Man United, he's scored against Man City now. You know, he's slowly, as I said, becoming that player where he's getting, as Jason would always say, big goals in big games. How important is that for his confidence as well, Russ?
Well, obviously, it's very important. He's scored a number of very important goals for us this season. He's had an awful lot of stick. Obviously, he came off social media. I think he's back on Insta now. And, you know, we've got to be patient with these younger players. I mean, he came to us from Nottingham Forest. You know, he didn't come from Man United or Liverpool or a club like that. So coming to a club like Spurs, playing in our stadium, playing with some of the players that he's playing with now, it's a big thing. And overall, I think he's fitted in very well. And to make the contribution, once again, that he made today, got his foot on the ball, put it over the line. Werner, as you were saying, you know, with that Bale-like run against Kyle Walker, who must have thought he's going to go inside, because I thought he had the quickest boots in world football, or maybe he's losing a bit of pace. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We scored 4-0. But I think Brennan Johnson is not going to be the real deal if he is going to get there ultimately for us for maybe another season or so. But, you know, I personally, I think he's really good.
Yeah, I do agree.
And of course, with Johnson, the criticism earlier in the season was, but all these, when you used to go back with goals and assist numbers, but he scores against Palace at home and he scores against Brentford, and none of the goals are against the big teams. Well, he scored at Old Trafford, he scored at the Etihad, he scored against Villa, big goal against Villa as well that turned that game. So he's scoring against the better sides in the league as well.
He has indeed. And again, I'll make that point to you. I know you've always been one to champion Brennan Johnson. And I think I will make this point on Brennan before we're looking for the close on this show, that, you know, this is a player that we've got to say with Brennan, you know, didn't have an easy time of it. I think, to be honest, for him, I said this last season, I think he was in the team far too early for really his own doing or his own liking, to be honest with you, because we had a number of injuries. It meant the player had to play and was almost forced into playing because of the nature of those injuries. I don't think Spurs in their mind ever thought they have had to integrate him as early as what they did. And if anything, maybe having a player that has had to be forced into the team, you see the benefit of it you see the benefit of it in his second season now, where, as Jason said, as Russ has said, those big goals in big games are arriving, aren't they, for him?
Yeah, they are. And of course, you know, to your point, it's his second season and it's the manager's second season. The whole thing's new. You come with a huge price tag. You know, what was he, 21, 22 when he arrived? 50 million quid or something, you know. It isn't easy, and bless a lot of these kids, you know, they try to manage the mental aspect of the game, but they're not going to get it right all the time. And so I'm really pleased for him. Like I said, listen, man, I'm just really pleased generally today, you know, because again, the manner of that victory and I think that this is an important result. Of course, I've said for years, I think Manchester City are the best team in the world. You know, I'm sure Madrid fans, like Barca fans, or, you know, whatever, might think differently. Liverpool fans might think differently. I do think they're the best team in the world. And so but it's not just about beating them. It's this collective, cohesive team effort to a man. I think that those are the moments, you know, when you're up against it, you can kind of recall that. Well, remember when we did that and we didn't have Van der Ven and we didn't have Romero and we did, you know, remember when we did that, guys, you know, especially for those players who are new. I've talked about Dragusin in the past being not entirely convinced by him, mainly because of his gobshite of an agent. But, you know, today I thought he was exceptional again. He's a very young man, and it's not the same when I understand he's playing at a big club in Italy, but it isn't the same as when you come to the Premier League. Again, these are just facts, man. This isn't my opinion. More people watch the Premier League than anything else in the world, so it is the biggest stage, and so that's going to be difficult for players. If you think you're coming in and thinking you're going to start, I don't think he did, by the way. That's just, again, his twat of an agent just talking nonsense. But today is really important, man, because you had to start today. And you're also starting next to someone who, again, a lot of people will say isn't, our first choice left-sided centre-back. And, of course, he isn't. And both of them are exceptional, man. Really switched on mentally from the first whistle to the last. To Jason's point, like that clearance that he made over the bar. Wow. Because, that's so high risk. I mean, that's actually easier to put, much, much easier to put into your own net than it is to put over the bar. And he got it just right. So hats off to you, young man. And of course, to the legendary Welsh wizard that was beside you that I just have nothing but affection for, man. Big up, Ben. Davies.
Listen, I'll make that point on Ben. It goes back to when me and Jay started this. I think it always is a stigma. It sticks to me. I think I called him at once 6 out of 10 Ben, steady Eddie Ben. I mean, Jason, and back in the day would often say to me, Rick, when he had a good game, he'd come back at me and say, Rick, that's sticking now for you. You're never going to shake that tag. And to be fair, here we are 8 years later, and I still can't shake it. But what I will say is I made that point with Ben every time he's put on the Spurs shirt that there's never been a drop in effort, in application, desire, and commitment. It's sometimes the quality, and again, it's not his fault. He's here for 10 years. And the problem, again, as we say in football, there are better players out there with better attributes, but never once have I ever questioned his commitment, his desire, his effort for the shirt, because he gives that every time he's out there. And I think he's going to make a remarkable coach. We know he's doing that behind the scenes at Tottenham. Wouldn't surprise me at all one day he comes back to Tottenham in a completely different formation. God knows as a coach or, who knows as a manager one day. I think Ben is a very intelligent guy. I think we, again, had a number of guests on here. I think one of them actually studied along with Ben, when he was doing a diploma on there. So, look, very intelligent guy. And again, I'll make that point that for him, to go and put that performance in at the Champions and not look out of place is all the credit to him. Before I go on, Jason.
Just on Ben Davies, I think the key for me with Ben Davies is if a goal is down, if people point the finger at him from a goal, it's because he's been outpaced or he's been outskilled. But there's very rarely a goal where it's down to stupid defending. So, Pedro Porro's back header in the first half that could have ended up differently. You don't see Davies do that. It's very rarely his man that's completely unmarked that scores. It's not an underhit back pass. It's not really stupid defending like we've seen some of the goals that have gone in, like, the goal against that Smodic scored last week where two people are standing watching each other. It's if somebody does a bit of skill for him, then you get done. If somebody outpaces him, then fair enough. But it's rarely something really stupid that you point your finger at Ben Davies. That's why I like Ben Davies.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely fair. It really, really is. I think we all agree, Ben, there's never been a drop in effort and application commitment. I'm going to close, if I can, on Angie's comments. I'm going to get one final opinion across the panel of what it means for Spurs coming next, if I can. So Ange Postecoglou, in his presser, said, look, you don't come to a place like this thinking it's going to be easy in terms of the game and in terms of who we're going to be facing. But I've said it before, City test you in every way footballing possible. You've got to do a bit of everything. You've got to defend. You've got to work hard, be disciplined. You've got to play your football. I thought in all areas of the pitch, we got really good levels from everybody across the game. And after a really disappointing game against Ipswich, we just got back our core belief as a team. Credit to the lads. They were incredible. We knew that in the first 10 minutes, they come out flying, especially with the 4 losses they've had away from home. So being at home, there'd be an energy in the stadium. We were going to have to weather that storm, which I thought we did fairly well. And we just grew in the game. I'm just so pleased for the players, for the belief they had in terms of the way they wanted to play. And I think it just further, hopefully, progresses us in terms of my time at the football club. He said, I really think, and he doubled down on this, that we have progressed. I think we're a better team than last year. And we have got spots at least to show that we're not the kind of side that does not allow progression to happen in terms of our standing. But I'll make the point, I've never sensed from the players there's been a loss in belief in what we're doing. It's very easy to be here, to play the way we want to play, because as we know with Tottenham as a club, there's always noise when things don't go well. But this was about doubling down on our footballing principles, and we did that. it's significant because obviously they've got an unbelievable record. So I don't think it's something you can just be sort of biased about. It's significant because I think for the players of the group, we've reached these standards before and we want to continue to reach these standards. It's about now, as I've said on this show many times, and we've all said, now not dropping them as we have in certain games. And, you know, he said the practice isn't always easy because they put you under pressure, City. And I thought our build-up play, we got a little bit stuck in when we needed to. We persisted and persisted and persisted during that second half, and we kept on playing our football. I know this is worse to Jason McGovern's ears hearing this. You know, a manager saying, we're playing the football we want to play. Can I just say? He said on James, look, I really think for James, the goals for him are a crucial element in his belief and the way for him now he can keep on moving forward. I've always said for James, in the earlier part of the season, he played well. If I'm not getting the maximum out of a player, and it's like for Ipswich, for example, it's about looking at myself as well as the player. He had 2 weeks with us and the coaching staff and worked really hard. And he was working really hard in training that I could see he was ready for a big game. He hasn't lowered his ambitions or his kind of levels of the kind of player he wants to be. And I thought it was really, really important in the build up to the game. And of course, the effort and application he showed out on the pitch. He was also asked to address the fact about Basuma and a number of the players. And he said, look, I thought everybody was great. You have to be against City because obviously they've got Big Erling up there. The way to deliver the ball into him, it's a constant probe. But he made that point. He thought Ben and Radu were absolutely focused. He thought Vic behind them was really positive as well. And he finally closed on the point. I think the key thing for us was we had to do it as a collective. I think when you play City, you can't rely on individuals to find solutions. I think we defended really well, but credit to Radu and Ben. They were not just brilliant defensively, but we had to play out from the back as well. And it was the only way we were going to deliver ball to the area we wanted to. And Ben and Radu did not shy away from that. It isn't always easy, but they consistently looked for the ball and they were looking for us to play out from the back. So credit to those guys. And look, you know, Ange makes that point there. And I think it's really important. What we saw from Tottenham there was an absolute team performance. And I want to close on this. Ange applauded the jubilant travelling Spurs fans as they sang his name after the final whistle. It is a great night for Tottenham. And hopefully the one that we look back on the evening and say, this really did kickstart the Postecoglou era. That's what we all want to believe. That's what we all want to see. Jace, we'll start with you and we'll close if we can with Russ. We've got a TJ after. Jace, close for us for you.
I was going to say, I bet nobody had a problem with Ange saying it to the floor either.
No, I mean,
not a problem today.
Just on this point, no, I don't want to deflect away because that can take us to a different conversation. Just give me your feelings on the importance of that win now. And ahead of what we know is I think it's 17 games in the next 38 days. You know, we've got, of course, in that, a huge Carabao Cup quarter-final against Manchester United. I won't underplay how much that means to me, you know. We've got, obviously, Europa League games to come. Obviously, big Premier League games away on the horizon. We've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal in there in January as well. Is that the game, in terms of that performance and manner of it and that collective, that should show the players that we can get results? And it is about, as we say, fine-tuning that across now the rest of the season.
No, I don't think it was. Manchester United was that game. You know, we were as dominant at Old Trafford as we were today. I know City are even better, but Manchester United showed. Aston Villa, second day for last season, showed what you can do if you follow the way, that you can play that way. But we get so focused on the negatives as soon as it goes wrong that we lose that belief. But you know, Villa 4-0 away from home. Villa's home form last year was ridiculous. We went there and won 4-0. So there's plenty of times. Today, I mean, don't get me wrong, today's an outstanding result, but it's not the first one. We have won big games. We put 4 or 5 past Newcastle at home last year. There's plenty of times to do it, but they've got to keep that belief. And not get distracted and drop their heads and feel sorry for herself. The one thing I thought Ipswich was just complacency was the word that cost us Ipswich. I don't think we lost the game tactically, Ipswich. It was a case of we went a goal down and you could just sense players thinking, yeah, but we always come back and not really working for it, just thinking it's going to happen. Today at Old Trafford, today against Villa last season, we made it work. We didn't wait for it to work. And that's the big difference. You know, go and make it happen, not just think it's going to happen. Big difference in those two principles.
Okay. So still for you, not get carried away, but again, the case of recognise when we're doing really well, recognise the results.
Absolutely.
And again, listen, we hope it is a landmark win. Jace, I think we are
Well,
going to see
it
this.
is a landmark win, but like I say, Rick, it's not the first one we've had. We've had plenty of them, a lot more than people give us credit for.
Yep. Coming from Mr. Flip Flop. There you go. That's from me, by the way, not Jason McGovern before I had. Jace, we will see you. Jason will show me that flip flop again before we go. There you go. I'll be taking it home at some point in the next year. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I will say, Jason, we love you. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Russ, I'll come over to you. We laughed and joked on, when I saw you, please, what was it, Thursday now? God, it feels like a very long week. About the need for a win, about how important it would be for the club. We stood in that stadium all together on Thursday, and the general consensus when we're all together on Thursday, and please God, TJ, we're going to see him soon. I'm looking forward to that in December. We can't want to see you. Russ is coming. Jason's up in the air somewhere. Thank God. I say thank God for Jason. He's looking forward to going over there. He's leaving us for a month. And many will say, is Jason purposely going during transfer window season? He does tell me he's coming back mid-Jan, but I will tell you, don't be surprised if Jason does extend to early Feb, because he hates the transfer window, as you know. But to go back to Russ, Russ,
I'm like Steve Hitchin. I hate the transfer window.
And I won't comment on appearance as well. Can I just say that, Jace, about you maybe looking similar to him? Russ, on this point, can I just say, we stood in that stadium on Thursday and we both said, what an unbelievable venue this is, what an unbelievable stadium this is. If only we can really genuinely get it right from a footling perspective on the pitch, just how special it would be. I mean, we've looked at a glimpse of what it could be, right? And it's about bringing that across the season and about the big games coming our way, Russ. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know that there is a rebuild going on with the football team. There needs to be a rebuild going on in many aspects of the football club away from the football team. That's another discussion. But, Jason, I think, summed it up pretty perfectly. All I would say is, Rick, let's celebrate a brilliant performance, a clean sheet. We're going to be first on match of the day, with guaranteed. And Ange Postecoglou, if you are watching, in the unlikely event, but you never know,
he does.
Get stuck into the amber nectar, Ange. You deserve it today.
Ange, we know you're watching. We know you're watching. We do. Russ, thank you so much. I've had double Russ this week, double Jason, and I'm blessed. It will soon be double TJ Ramini coming my way. I am then going to collapse and fall over. I really, really will. CJ, look, mate, it's so lovely to have you on. I've got to say that, again, I'll make this point, and Russ won't mind me saying this. I will just say, I think Jason and Russ are the two, I would say, in terms of guests that have always been consistent about Ange and about really seeing this process for what it is and giving it opportunities and not being as low when we lose and not being even as high as we win. It's always about an even keel and a balance. I think me and Russ are probably those fans that just, we need to bloody see it. We've waited so bloody long. Just give us it, will you? Just give us it.
Exactly.
We need it. Russ was ready to go after 2 minutes, after we won this game. He was ready. TJ, closing with you, just how important is that win? Is it a landmark win? Is it more than that? Is it not as big as that? How important is this of the context of the season for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a landmark win. I don't think anybody who goes to the Etihad and wins 4-0 would come away and say anything else. Of course, it was a landmark win. I mean, for me, the importance, and again, Rick, we were texting before coming onto the show, and I said that it was really important for me for a couple of reasons. And again, these are just my opinion, right? And so I never begrudge anyone having an opinion, even if it's the complete opposite of mine. We all have the right to feel and say whatever we wish. So for me, what was really important about winning today, and it was a landmark victory and a fantastic team performance. We've talked about that for the last hour and a half. What's really important is I just hope that it galvanizes our fan base. For me, one of the greatest pleasures about this win today is not dealing with the thousands and thousands and thousands of horrifically negative, a lot of the time really angry and very personal attacks against Ange. Remember, he's a human being as well, and he's trying to do his very best. So I'm hoping that we can just do away. Of course, we are going to criticize him. That's definitely coming. There will be games into the future, maybe in the very near future, where we'll be criticizing him again. However, please can we move away from, I'm just asking, I'm not demanding of anybody, please can we move away from the Ange isn't up to this level. Ange doesn't have the experience to coach in the Premier League. Ange isn't the right guy to play the kind of Tottenham football. Ange isn't the guy who's going to win us things. Can we at least see today we have outclassed the best team in the world. Yes, they're having a bit of a wobble, but they're still the best team in the world. And my goodness, they would have wanted to make a statement today in front of their fans after an international break, and they were put to the sword. So perhaps, Tottenham fan base, can we get together and realize we've got a really good thing in this Australian gentleman who is leading us into a bright and prosperous future? Let's get behind him. Let's get behind these players. Let's get behind this team. Let's have a wonderful weekend. Let's send nothing but love and positivity to all of our Spurs brothers and sisters all over the world. And come on, you Spurs. Wonderful show, man. Thank you so much for having me, Rick. Jason, lovely to see you as ever. Russ, I will see you next month, mate. Can't wait for that.
I gotta say, I've got to read this comment out very quick before we do close here. I'm going to read this out. TJ is our Yoda, full of wisdom and common sense. There you go.
Thank you so much. Renegades. Thank you.
Our dynamite central midfielder is TJ Ramini in there with an actor as well. You decide what he does on a full-time, part-time basis. I think you probably see it from his profile. I tell you, bloody good centre midfield as well. No, he's not available in the January window, can I just add? Not for us anyway, at our rate of pay. I will just say. Guys, I want to say, look, multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast from us here, Last Word on Spurs. Thank you for all your incredible support for the show. You've all been absolutely amazing. We cannot thank you enough for that. Nearly over 8,000 of you have watched this show live. It just blows my mind, the amount of viewers and listeners that tune into the show week upon week, game upon game, episode upon episode. And look, we do it for our love. We do it for you, the wonderful people that make this club so special and are craving success. Let's hope it's not far away. Let's hope that landmark win is the start of and really taking this job by the horns and leading us to glory. I want to say a massive thank you to Jason McGovern. Jace, we'll see you soon. Brilliant broadcast extraordinaire, Russ Williams, and actor TJ Ramini. We have been the Last Word on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.